In recent years, the US and European markets have been very repellent to Chinese 5G equipment. In addition to verbally discrediting Chinese companies, they have also actively lobbied other countries to ban and dismantle related equipment. For example, in order to avoid risks, Germany firmly ordered the dismantling of Huawei's 5G equipment. However, not all US and European allies follow this policy. At the end of October this year, some US politicians pointed out that although Finland ostensibly claimed to support reducing its dependence on Chinese technology, it did not actually thoroughly implement the plan to dismantle Huawei's 5G equipment. Even more shocking is that the Finnish government subsequently made it clear that they would not blindly follow the pace of other countries, but would make wise judgments based on their own circumstances. Obviously, Finland attaches great importance to Huawei's 5G market and is even willing to cause friction with the US and European alliance to some extent. So, what exactly is the reason why the West is so determined to eliminate China's 5G network? And why does Finland insist on maintaining its own 5G market? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. With the advent of the 5G era, our lives are entering a new era full of challenges and opportunities. In this wave of technological change, China has shown its importance that cannot be ignored, especially the significant breakthroughs made by companies such as Huawei in the 5G field. Thanks to the promotion of the new generation of information technology, China's digital transformation is also accelerating. At present, China has more than 94,000 5G network application cases, covering multiple industries such as industry, mining, electricity, ports, and medical care, and has achieved large-scale replication. Among them, there are more than 13,000 5G+ industrial internet projects under construction, and a number of 5G factories have been built, providing a practical Chinese solution for the sustainable digital transformation of the global manufacturing industry. Among them, Huawei's contribution to the development of China's 5G technology is particularly outstanding. The latest data shows that Huawei has more than 8,400 5G core technology patents and continues to maintain its leading position in the field. According to the forecast of the Global System for Mobile Communications Association, by the end of this year, China's 5G connections will exceed 1 billion, becoming the world's largest mobile communications market. It is expected that by 2030, China's 5G connections will account for nearly 1/3 of the global total. At present, China has built 4.08 million 5G base stations, accounting for 66% of the global 5G base station deployment, with a total of 5.94 million. However, in the face of such a huge market share of China's 5G in the world, some countries are worried about it, and the United States and Western countries have therefore imposed a series of sanctions on it. As early as 2018, the US government began to take a series of severe measures against Huawei, including prohibiting US companies from cooperating with Huawei and restricting Huawei equipment from entering the US market. Subsequently, the United States also actively lobbied allies and other countries to sanction Huawei, claiming that Huawei equipment may be used by the Chinese government for espionage. Among them, Australia took the lead in announcing that Huawei would be excluded from the list of 5G network suppliers. And then India, Japan, Canada, and other countries also took restrictive measures on Huawei equipment. It is worth noting that Huawei has a relatively high share in the European market. So the United States began to unite 20 EU countries such as Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, and France to ask these allies to dismantle Huawei's 5G equipment. But surprisingly, there is an EU country that, although it restricts Huawei equipment on the surface, has not actually had plans to dismantle these equipment for many years, and has not even prevented Huawei from entering its market. This EU country is Finland. In 2019, under the pressure of US sanctions, the Finnish government considered dismantling 5G equipment in cooperation with Huawei. However, due to concerns about economic losses and other factors, this plan has not been officially implemented. It was not until October 2024 that the European Commission appointed a new Finnish official to be responsible for technological sovereignty affairs. On the day of the appointment, the official said at the EU meeting that he wanted to reduce dependence on Chinese technology. But a few days later, American politicians said that although the Finnish official hoped that the EU would reduce its dependence on Chinese technology, Finland's trade relations with China remain close, especially in terms of 5G network cooperation, and the country remained open to China's 5G equipment. Subsequently, European telecommunications companies conducted a survey and found that 41% of Finland's telecommunications network equipment was provided by Huawei. This data clearly reflects Finland's over-reliance on Chinese manufacturers in the field of network equipment. Despite the EU's tensions over China's 5G equipment, Finland has failed to implement these goals and instead given Huawei such a large market share. This directly led to Finland being warned by the EU and urged to comply with the EU's technological security position. Surprisingly, the Finnish government made it clear that it would not blindly follow the pace of other countries, but would make wise judgments based on its own specific circumstances. This is obviously a direct rejection of the EU's proposal. So, as a member of the EU, why would Finland prefer to offend the United States, Europe, and other countries and still maintain relations with China? As far as I know, Finland's close trade relations with China are not limited to 5G equipment. Data released by Merix from 2000 to 2023 show that Finland has attracted approximately 14.1 billion euros in Chinese direct investment, ranking behind the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and the Netherlands, becoming one of the important destinations for Chinese direct investment. In addition, the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Affairs also revealed that the total value of Finnish companies' business in China exceeds 20 billion euros per year. This shows that both sides are important trading partners for each other, whether it is Chinese companies' investment in Finland or the development of Finnish companies in China. Compared with any other EU country, China's investment in Finland is particularly significant. About 8% of Finland's foreign direct investment comes from China, which is much higher than the EU average. This close economic relationship makes it almost impossible for Finland to make a decision easily when considering restricting the use of Chinese 5G equipment. Judging from the above data, if China follows the advice of the United States or the European Union, it is likely to take countermeasures against Finland. In fact, when the United States and Europe imposed restrictions on Huawei's 5G equipment, China has already implemented countermeasures against some countries. It is worth noting that Nokia of Finland has also become one of the targets of China's sanctions after being invited by the United States to join the Open 5G Alliance. According to confidential industry data, in China, the world's largest 5G market, Nokia's sales share of communication base stations and antennas has dropped from 6.2% in 2019 to 0.9% in 2023. A Nokia spokesperson said the company's total share of the Chinese equipment market is currently less than 5%. In response to market changes, Nokia has been reducing its business in China, earlier sold part of its equity in a joint venture with Huawei in China, and cut nearly 2,000 jobs. Therefore, facing such a huge market as China, Finland is obviously unwilling to have any conflict of interest with it. In addition, if Finland imposes restrictions on Huawei's 5G equipment, it will not only face trade interests with China, but may also have to bear huge demolition losses. Take Germany as an example. From 2008 to 2018, Huawei's global procurement supply chain brought Germany about 2.357 billion euros in economic benefits and created 28,000 jobs. In 2022, Huawei's 5G equipment accounted for a staggering 59% of the German infrastructure market. However, under the pressure of US sanctions, the German government announced restrictions on the use of Huawei's 5G equipment in July 2024. According to the plan, the German government decided to ban the use of Huawei and ZTE components in the 5G core network from 2026, and plans to completely remove these devices by 2029. At the same time, the German government described the removal of Huawei equipment as a doomsday because the decision could result in a GDP loss of up to $105.5 billion in Germany, considering that most of the 5G equipment of German operators comes from Huawei. According to a report from the German Railway Department, the complete removal of Huawei's 5G equipment may cause the railway department to lose about $5 billion. Moreover, replacing 5G equipment may cause network delays of up to 6 years, which will seriously weaken Germany's competitive advantage in the field of digitalization and cause immeasurable losses to the economy and technological innovation. What is even more surprising is that due to Germany's decision, the 5G network deployment plan across Europe has been postponed by 18 months, and an additional cost of $59.6 billion has been added, which has had a huge impact on the communications industry. According to data, only 8% of operators are willing to participate in the removal of Huawei equipment, and they also need to pay up to $4.9 billion. Once the German government begins to remove Huawei's 5G equipment, it is expected to directly cause a loss of $4.2 billion and indirectly cause the overall GDP to shrink by $11.3 billion. It is worth mentioning that it will cost hundreds of millions of dollars to replace a bunch of equipment that has become scrap iron after being dismantled, so this is not a wise choice. It can be seen that Finland is obviously aware of its dependence on Huawei's 5G. If it follows the US and European countries to impose restrictions, Finland is likely to face a similar dilemma as Germany. But since 5G technology became stable, many Chinese companies have begun to increase investment in 6G technology. As of now, China accounts for 40% of patent applications for 6G technology, while the US alliance only accounts for 35%. 6G technology is famous for its intelligent connection of everything. China's newly built 6G field test network can even enable 4G and 5G communication links to have 6G communication capabilities. In addition, 6G technology will enable communication between the ground and near-Earth satellites. If the technology falls behind in 6G research and development, or is banned from entering the country like Huawei's 5G, this may have a negative impact on the country's military and economic security. Therefore, at the level of 6G technology, I think the world cannot escape China's influence. So, what do you think about the restrictions on China's network technology? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.